Solve the equation using the quadratic formula. Okay, so first recall that the quadratic formula says that if you have a quadratic equation in standard form, so ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, then the solutions are going to be given by x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, where a, b, and c are the coefficients from the quadratic equation. Okay, so over here in this example, like I said, you want to make sure it's in the standard form first. And so for my coefficients, the one in front of the x squared, if there's nothing written, we know that's a 1. So a is going to be equal to 1. B, we're going to go ahead and use 8, and c is 15. And so that's what we'll plug into our quadratic formula. Okay. So in this case here, then x is equal to a negative b, so negative 8, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so we have 8 squared, minus 4 times a times c, so 4 times 1 times 15. And then that's all over 2 times a, so 2 times 1. So right now, like I said, you've got the correct numbers in the right place. It's a matter of simplifying it. So really important, the order of operations, you need to simplify completely under the radical before you can simplify the radical or combine like terms or reduce the fraction. So underneath the radical, we also have to take care of exponents before we multiply and divide. So I'm going to have a negative 8 plus or minus, and then under the radical, 8 squared, we get 64. And then I have a 4 times 1 times 15, so that's 60. And so there's a negative there, so minus 60 all over 2. Now underneath the radical, I have 64 minus 60, so I'm going to have negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 4 all over 2. Now sometimes with the quadratic formula, we're finished right here. It's really a matter of whether or not the radical will simplify, if you have like terms, or if the fraction will reduce. In this case here, there's a lot more I can do. So notice that the square root of 4 is a 2. So we get negative 8 plus or minus 2 all over 2. Now because these are like terms, I need to combine them. But notice that I have plus or minus 2. So I'm going to have to do both a negative 8 plus a 2 and a negative 8 minus a 2. So the best thing to do is work it out, work them out separately. So I got a negative 8 plus 2 over 2 and a negative 8 minus 2 over 2. Okay, so negative 8 plus 2, we get a negative 6 over 2, which gives us a negative 3. Then for the other one, negative 8 minus 2, we'll have a negative 10 over 2, which will give us a negative 5. So my two solutions are going to be 3 and negative 5. Okay, so that's how you would solve it using the quadratic formula. It's not the only way to solve it. Usually if I'm given a choice, I'll look at the equation, I'll set it equal to 0. Usually I'll go with factoring first. If I can't factor it, after, 30 seconds or so, then I'll go ahead and I'll use the quadratic formula, or I may solve by completing the square. It really depends on what the equation looks like. But like I said, the nice thing about the quadratic formula is it will always work. All right, well, let me know if you have any questions about this or other problems from the homework.